So the first iPhone was released all the way back in 2007. It was priced at $499 for the 4GB model and $599 for the 8GB model. That was expensive for a smartphone then, and it's been interesting to see how the price of smartphones have doubled since then. I recently rewatched the keynote where Steve Jobs announced the iPhone. He says in the keynote that it was going to be a revolutionary product, and I'm sure at the time people thought that sounded crazy, but it really was. It completely changed what smartphones should be.
Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not three separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Most smartphones at the time had a physical keyboard, a physical QWERTY keyboard, and it's hilarious looking back at it now because they're all so ugly. The iPhone was just a slab of glass with a touchscreen, and it seems simple now, but back then there was a lot of uncertainty and whether having a full touchscreen made any sense. Even multi-touch wasn't really a thing. Pinch to zoom was first seen on the iPhone. It wasn't invented by Apple, but they definitely popularized it. Now we naturally pinch to zoom when looking at pictures, zooming in and out of maps and websites and things like that. It's just become second nature. As well as being good at hardware, Apple was also good at software. And ultimately, I think that's what helped them do so well with the iPhone. The software on the iPhone made it so easy to use and simple for most people who are using their first full touchscreen phone. My first iPhone was the iPhone 4S, and I think I bought that for around £400. It was definitely secondhand and it was used, but it was my first iPhone and I loved it. Before that though, I had a HTC Desire. That was my first true smartphone. I was always interested in phones from a young age, but this was the first phone that I researched a lot and bought with my own money. Yet I only had it for 1 or 2 years before switching over to the iPhone. There are a couple of reasons why I switched to the iPhone. Those include a more polished design. The iPhone 4S especially was a stunning phone. Made from glass and aluminium, it was nothing like other smartphones at the time, which were mostly made from plastic. Nothing wrong with plastic of course, but the one thing I've always said in past reviews is that Apple do a really good job of making the iPhone feel like a piece of jewellery. It feels expensive, it looks expensive, and it reflects the light like a fancy watch would. iOS and software updates. Android at the time still felt quite rough. I felt like it was still in its infancy, you could say. There were lots of bugs and the Android App Store was lacking. I remember at the time that you couldn't even get Instagram on an Android phone. You had to have an iPhone to use Instagram. And that was the case for a lot of popular apps at the time. They were only available on iOS. iOS would also receive regular updates and new features, and that's still the case for iPhones today. The camera. I would see so many great pictures taken with the iPhone. I remember browsing Flickr and seeing that the iPhone was the most popular capture device on Flickr. Apple had done such a good job of marrying the camera hardware with the software. Sure, there were smartphones out there with bigger sensors and more megapixels, but iPhone pictures just seemed more natural, more lifelike compared to the competition. Cross-device integration. So I had recently bought an iMac. I bought it for work because I was learning to become a designer and make websites. Apple devices work so well with each other that it only made sense to have an iPhone too. Today I had the iPhone 12 Pro and I use it as my main device. I love the new squared off design of it, and like I've said previously, it feels like a piece of jewellery with the mix of glass and aluminium. I also like the size of the 12 Pro. I found the 12 Pro Max just a bit too large for me personally. The cameras on it are better than ever and have the ability to shoot RAW, which gives you a lot more possibilities when editing photos. I really enjoy the pictures that come from the iPhone 12 Pro, and being able to edit them in Lightroom, use my Lightroom presets to get a consistent look across my images is great. iOS 15 is also coming soon, and devices as old as the iPhone 6s will also be receiving the update. That phone was released nearly 6 years ago now, so it's very impressive to see Apple still supporting a device that old. and cross-device integration is better than ever. It still amazes me that I can copy and paste images, text and other things between all of my devices. I can also answer phone calls and messages on my Mac, and I can access all of my photos no matter which device I'm on. Hardware updates to the iPhone year on year haven't been as huge as they were between the original iPhone all the way up to the 6. I felt like at the time we were seeing the iPhone change a lot with every iteration. There was always some huge new hardware feature, but now the updates seem a lot more incremental. I think for most people it doesn't really make sense to upgrade their iPhone every year, especially when you take into consideration the prices of smartphones these days. But for me, I'm very much now tied into the Apple ecosystem. I use a lot of their services, including iMessage and iCloud, and I use apps like Final Cut Pro and Sketch, which are only available on the Mac. If I wanted to, I could definitely change. I can definitely switch to Android and Windows. There's no issue with that. I can definitely make it happen. Yet, I don't really want to. I enjoy being in the ecosystem. I enjoy using Apple's apps and services, and I enjoy the iPhone. I upgrade my iPhone every year because I can afford to. I use my iPhone for work, so I can write it off as a business expense. I can actually manage a lot of my work from my iPhone, especially when it comes to admin work and keeping in touch with employees and things like that. So it's well worth upgrading for me every year, but at the same time I can use it to consume media and create media, like taking pictures and videos. It's incredible to see how much can be done on a modern smartphone these days, not just on the iPhone. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for more.